One of the hottest topics over the next couple of months pertaining to the Atlanta Braves is going to be trade targets, specifically in the outfield with Ronald Acuna Jr. going down for the season. I've said it once and I will say it 100 times between now and the trade deadline. I fully expect them to add one, if not multiple bodies to the outfield room to pair with Adam Duvall and Jared Kelenic and kind of play the hot hand just like they did in 2021. The blueprint's there. It seems pretty like an obvious thing, even though Alex Anthopoulos does like to do things
Not the obvious.
a little bit differently than the rest of the league, and that's why he's the best. But one of those trade targets that's going to be mentioned a lot is Tommy Pham, and Tommy Pham's having a very good season with the Chicago White Sox. He's coming off a World Series appearance after being traded to the Arizona Diamondbacks, where he was absolutely outstanding. He's been in 31 postseason games, great numbers, over 300, 9 homers, incredible postseason stuff. Also brings a little bit of that asshole vibe, which I want to give credit to because it's something that we've talked about. We kind of want the Braves to have. I mean, you think about what happened last year and how we just had our tail tucked between our legs when that whole Arcia and Harper thing. So we've all been asking for that. But I got to ask you, Alex, you saw what happened over the weekend. If you didn't see it, Tommy Pham and William Contreras, old Wild Bill, old friend, got in a little scuffle. Tommy Pham's out there telling he's going to F you up. He's shadow boxing his way to the outfield. He comes out afterwards. He says, I box, I train in the offseason, like no one can F with me kind of attitude. Is he a little bit too much of an asshole? And also, he slapped Jock Peterson over a fantasy football group chat when Jock Peterson was on the Braves. Is he a little bit too much of an asshole to be fit in this clubhouse? We talk about clubhouse fit all the time. That's just as important as the talent on the field when it comes to trade acquisitions. It just seems like there's something a little bit off on this guy. Like, why wasn't he signed? Like, this guy had that huge.
Well, I was just about to say he played an integral part.
He was
the
World biggest. Series. Him and Ketel Marte were the biggest offensive pieces on the Diamondbacks for that World Series run, and he
went unsigned for the entire offseason. I mean, that's very strange. And he's a veteran. He's a little bit older, but he's not that old. And he's coming off an incredible season with postseason success. It is wild that he went unsigned for that long. The White Sox are definitely going to flip him for, some sort of prospect. So good for the White Sox. They rarely do the right thing. They're obviously going to be rewarded for their investment in Tommy Pham. You would think, because if you're the Atlanta Braves, locker room chemistry has been at the forefront of conversations for years now. Alex Anthopoulos, Brian Snitker, everybody who's come through Atlanta has harped on how much fun it is to play in Atlanta. And it starts at the top with Alex Anthopoulos constantly referencing how he uses references when, deciding on an acquisition of a player. And if you go and ask around the league about Tommy Pham, I'm not sure what they would say. Obviously, I'm sure Anthopoulos could go to Jock Peterson and say, hey, what was all that? And, maybe get something that the public doesn't actually have in terms of information. But I think, generally speaking, the Atlanta Braves as a machine is such a well-oiled one. That one cog that potentially might be a bad apple in some places in terms of like shaking up a locker room. It seems the Atlanta Braves might be a little bit more resilient to that, where like you throw one guy in there that might mess up the entire chemistry of the LA Dodgers or the Yankees. And again, that generally won't happen because, like I said, it's a machine. One cog isn't going to ruin it. With that being said, some other clubs who have a less established culture may be more susceptible to a Tommy Pham explosion, but it feels like the Braves would be able to handle that kind of personality. In fact, I think they could use it. It feels like this team's a bunch of nice guys, and the mean guys are not the mean guys. The guys who are going to, say something to your face, they only pitch once every 5 days. We don't have a mean streets guy that plays every single day. It doesn't feel like that.
Yeah, I mean,
again, it's baseball. I don't know how much that really matters.
I think it matters. I think there's no doubt. I think about all the players that came out and said, we are a little bit too ice. We're a bunch of nice guys. We're going to try to change that. But those things are ingrained.
You are what you are.
Yeah. It's hard to fake. You can't fake being a big, tough guy or something like that. That's just who the Atlanta Braves are and who they've shown to be over the last 2 postseasons.
Yeah.
And I think that's an intriguing thing because on the one hand, you're like, I do want a little bit of a jerk to add into this group. But on the other hand, is it too big of a jerk? And I think those relationships that he's had with Jock Peterson and what happened, I 100% know Alex Anthopoulos, if he was considering Tommy Pham, would go out there and ask Jock Peterson about what the hell happened. If he doesn't already know, he probably already knows because it happened while he was on as a member of the Atlanta Braves. But I 100%, he's talked about it time and time again about how, he will go back to former players, former executives. What do you think about this guy? And if he gets a negative review and he respects your opinion, he is not going to trade for that person. Mm-hmm. And I think it has to be a certain kind of negative review. But I'll tell you what, he talks all about how if you were uncomfortable coming to work, how it would affect your performance. I'm just, and I don't know Tommy Pham a person. There were a lot of people in Arizona and New York that, had good things to say about his locker room presence and stuff like that. But I can't tell you, someone who acts the way that he does publicly and he does it, that is uncomfortable. Like if you are like making me feel like there's a physical threat next to me, like if he were to do that to one of his own teammates, right, which we haven't seen before, that would make you uncomfortable to come to work. I mean, it made Jock Peterson uncomfortable. Like he was scared. I don't know if you heard this story. He was scared to go out to batting practice when we played the Reds and Tommy Pham was on the team because he said he was going to get slapped. It makes you uncomfortable, right? So there's something there. Now, obviously, we don't know the entire story of who Tommy Pham is, so I'm not going to speak on all of that. But I will say these are not good looks for you, Tommy Pham, if you're trying to trade and go to a contender. Like nobody thinks it's cool to go out there and fight people, like unless you're in the UFC.
I don't know. It could be kind of cool. It's just the way he's gone about it. It's like it's just let the actions do the words. You don't need to come out after the Wild Bill incident and say this is why I box. It never looks good. And listen, Tommy Pham could throw me through a wall. I'm not saying I'm this big bad guy, but it always looks bad when you're on video, on anything other than face-to-face, and you say something along the lines of, I'll beat you up. I do this, and this type of martial arts. You don't want to mess with me. It's the baddest dude in the room is generally the most quiet. And when you're barking up, the storm in the locker room, 30 minutes after you've had time to cool down, it is a bad look. With that being said, if you are just a hothead all the time, which I get, I know plenty of people who are always hot. Maybe the Braves do need a little bit of that. If somebody came up to, a Phillies player in the postseason and, that got a spark going for the Atlanta Braves, nobody would be like, ooh, this guy's, he's ruffling feathers. We'd be like, yes, that's exactly what we've been missing.
Yeah. No, I mean, I don't disagree. I mean, like I said, it's almost like a double-edged sword. And I'm interested to see if the Braves will actually show any interest because I think it's going to be a pretty cut and dry. Like he makes a lot of sense. The White Sox are going to trade him. We have that need. It's not going to cost a lot. Mm-mm. It reminds you very, very much of the acquisitions like the Jock Petersons and the Jorge Solers that are going to cost nothing. They'll cost like your top, maybe one top 30 prospect, maybe not even that. It'll talk about some guy that you'll never hear from again, a guy that has postseason experience, a guy that's a little rough around the edges. You either love him or hate him, and maybe he's loved in Atlanta. So it's going to be a cut and dry thing. Like the fit makes a lot of sense. It just all comes down to on
paper, it makes sense, but it goes well past paper with the Atlanta Braves and Alex Anthopoulos. And if you haven't wrapped your head around that, that might be the reason we don't acquire Tommy Pham or any player for that matter. Then it's time to wake up that the Atlanta Braves just do things differently. It's almost 1A, 1B where your production is incredibly important. They're not acquiring bad players, but that 1B is how you fit in Atlanta. And if you're still just, ignoring that, then that's on you.
Yeah, and it's funny because, Alex Anthopoulos has talked about guys that he's directly ignored based off people's – maybe one of those players already was Tommy Pham because Tommy Pham was traded last offseason. He's been in the trade rumors
people
before.
Thought about. Braves fans were like, Tommy Pham, Tommy Pham,
yeah.
Tommy Pham.
So maybe that was – maybe we've already had this conversation and it's already been put to bed, but that's intriguing. Coming up after the break, Kirk Cousins, the tampering issue is finally going to be put to bed likely this week. We're going to discuss it.